What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we've got some more Destiny 2 stuff to talk about. Never a dull day for this game. There always seems to be something crazy happening, whether it's good or bad. We're going to be talking about a mix of everything that's been going down recently. So a very confusing situation of the faction rally and Iron Banner loot, also some powerful mods and the idea of pay to win, some Sandbox updates, and also some other random bits of news as well. So as usual, plenty of interesting things to talk about. So let's begin talking about Faction Rally and the whole mess of the loot system, what's actually going on there. So as I mentioned in my previous video, there are some new Faction Rally weapons, but they aren't dropping inside those engrams, which is kind of the main point of Faction Rally. So a lot of us are wondering, is it a bug? Are they supposed to be dropping but aren't for some reason? Or are they actually supposed to be not dropping and it's kind of a slow drip feed of the weapons? And as it turns out, that is actually the case. They're actually not supposed to be dropping, and these new weapons, the 5 ones, are meant to be kind of slowly fed out one by one in the upcoming Faction Rally. So it is a very, very confusing situation because no one actually told the community that there wasn't going to be new weapons dropping. I mean, there were so many blog posts and so much talk about this Faction Rally, which was delayed for like 2 months, and with the entire community expecting to get some new weapons, all we could get was the ornaments and some new ghost shells and sparrows, things like that. So it was a very massive miscommunication, it seems. Bungie did address it a couple times in various blog posts. So they said the other question on players' minds is, where are the new Season 2 weapons? And their response to this question is saying it was not made clear beforehand that new Season 2 weapons would be added throughout the events of the season rather than all at once at the beginning. This was on us, no excuses. So they pretty much owned up and said this was their mistake. So Christopher Barrett on Twitter said, our new goals for weapon rewards in Faction Rally should have been broadcast before it returned. I think we could have avoided lots of confusion for players. The development update was our priority. Going forward, we'll strive to communicate any changes to our rewards or experiences before they go live, which I definitely agree with. It's just really confusing how out of all the communication they did have with us, this is one thing they failed to mention. So long story short, they pretty much forgot or failed to tell us about the loot changes, and this is basically them apologizing for it. So now you're probably wondering, how are these weapons even supposed to drop them? What is the actual formula of how they're supposed to be kind of obtained? So DMG from Bungie made a blog post explaining how the system is supposed to work going forward, and it is a very, very confusing system. I'm going to try my best to explain it as easily and simply as I can, and I'll have some kind of poorly drawn image on screen as well to follow along. But essentially, each faction has 5 new weapons with Curse of Osiris, so 15 new weapons in total, added on top of the other ones we've already seen, of course, from Season 1. So there's going to be 3 faction rallies of the Season 2 that we're currently in, and this first faction rally happening right now, each faction is offering an auto rifle as the winning weapon, of course. So that is it for this current faction rally. So 3 out of the 15 weapons are available as winning weapons. So with the next faction rally happening next month, they're going to put those 3 auto rifles back in the engram loot pool for you to get normally with tokens, then also put 3 more weapons in the engram pool, and then put 3 more weapons as the winning rewards, making there 9 out of 15 weapons currently out there. And then with the third and final faction rally of the season, those 3 winning weapons from the previous time are going to be added into the general loot pool again with the others. And they're also going to be adding another 3. And then the final 3 remaining weapons out of the total 15 are going to be up as winning weapons for that third and final faction rally. So it's a very confusing system, like I said, very hard to explain, but hopefully that made sense. But essentially with each new event, they put the old winning weapons into the loot pool, put some new winning weapons up, and also add 3 more into the loot pool. So that's kind of the rotation of how these events are supposed to work out. Now, it is also worth noting that Iron Banner 2 is going to be getting some changes, probably similar to Faction Rally. So they did mention how next week they will be giving us a heads up of how Iron Banner is going to differ with the loot system. So expect Iron Banner to be probably similar to Faction Rally, if not even more different. And these new Iron Banner weapons are also going to be drip fed, unlike Season 1's version. Now, as for my thoughts on the system, it's just really strange, to be honest. I have no idea why they went for this as opposed to just putting them all in the loot pool like the very first season's Faction Rally, because this means basically the first event is nearly pointless to play, the one we're in currently right now, because you can't get anything new. There's only the sidearm. So the next one is going to have even more weapons. And the third Faction Rally of the season, that's where you can actually get all of the loot. So there's pretty much not much point in playing these first 2 Faction Rallies. You might as well wait for the last one to actually get the new stuff. So it is very confusing, and to be honest, the weapons aren't even that great either. There are a few cool ones, but mostly are very forgettable, and it's not even like these are some crazy guns worth getting hyped for. So that's basically a summary of it. A really convoluted drip feed of these new faction weapons, and Bungie also never told us this would be how it works. So that's basically why everyone was so confused by it, and also why there's been such a fuss kicked up about Faction Rally recently. So moving on to a slightly more positive topic, let's talk about the mod system and mods 2.0, which we've got a few hints and teasers and kind of mentions about that's on the way for future updates, and it does sound pretty promising. So the Destiny the Game Twitter account tweeted something they don't normally talk about that is an update on the way, and that is saying mods are getting a full rework soon, expect more unique theming, greatly increased impact on power, and more when mods 2.0 arrives. So it's basically expanding on what they said last time in the development update, mentioning mods are going to be more powerful and more unique. Now, in terms of the mod update, there's actually a pretty interesting detail inside that development post that I feel like is very easy to kind of ignore or skip over. But if you read into it, it's actually pretty interesting. So this is, of course, when they mentioned the similar thing about mods being better. But at the end, they said, of course, we're going to be evaluating how mods play into the bright engram economy as a result, because we're sensitive to pay-to-win outcomes. So obviously at first, it doesn't really sound like a big deal. But if you think about it, this basically means mods are actually going to be very, very powerful if they're that sensitive about pay-to-win. So obviously right now inside Eververse, you can obtain a bunch of blue mods, which are the unupgraded versions of the purple ones. So you can get a ton of those. And obviously right now, no one really considers that pay to win. It's not really a big deal. But the fact that Eververse is going to be an issue with these new mods that are on the way actually does kind of tell you how powerful they're going to be compared to the mods we have right now inside the game, which apparently Bungie has no issue with being a pay to win situation. The fact that these mods are going to require a bit of work to kind of avoid that. They may just not have blue mods drop altogether inside Eververse because clearly it's going to be a problem. But of course, they also mentioned simplifying the mod system and they may just get rid of blue mods altogether. So it's a very interesting statement they said that I think went under the radar. I want to know what you guys think of this new mod system that apparently would be a pay to win outcome if it was left the way it was with the Eververse system dropping blues. So Bungie also very briefly mentioned mods among a few other things in their latest blog update. They said Grant McKay, who is one of the Sandbox designers, he's put together a really exciting plan for mods 2.0 that's going to open up their requirements significantly, allowing them to be more potent in ways that you'll end up feeling directly in your ability uptime and therefore your total power output. So basically a fancy way of saying they're going to be very powerful. They said the rest of the crew is actually hard at work on some super exciting new content to put smiles on all your faces before the year is out. So I guess that means the Taken King expansion or Taken Queen with Savathun towards the end of the year in the fall. And they said that is just the beginning. Now, in terms of the Sandbox, which is basically the weapons, the abilities, the subclasses, the meta of the game, and mostly the Crucible, to be honest, that stuff is being worked on as well. As we know, it wasn't mentioned all that much inside the development update, but they want to remind us they are working on a big kind of balance pass. So Josh Hamrick, who you might remember from a lot of the balances from Destiny 1 Sandbox, said we wanted to drop in for a moment to verify that we're already hard at work on making various progress on improvements that was mentioned in last week's blog post. As well as that, they said the exotic pass, which is obviously the massive buff of a lot of exotics that are underwhelming right now, they said that is moving forward nicely with John Wisniewski at the helm. The team has also been talking about things they want to see in the next balance pass coming to you in Season 3 for the last several weeks. 2018 is shaping up to be a huge year for all of us, and there are plenty of Sandbox improvements and changes coming your way. That is what Bungie have been saying about the recent updates and also the Sandbox. I think the Sandbox update is probably one of the most important things they need to start talking about soon, in my opinion. They have been talking about quite a lot of updates, but I think the Sandbox is definitely one of the most important things because more than ranked play, I think the Sandbox and time to kill, the weapon system, I feel like a lot of people are not very happy with Crucible at the moment and tons of people have dropped off. So while it is definitely cool to see them adding Rumble and 6v6 and ranked play, I think it's putting the cart before the horse to add stuff like that without first fixing the Sandbox. So it's a very complicated situation, but I think these Sandbox fixes need to kind of overhaul the entire system and make a lot of changes because clearly with the numbers, people are not happy about Crucible. I mean, I don't play much Crucible these days. It was by far one of my favorite things about Destiny 1. I used to make videos and play it all the time, and especially Trials of the Night. I never play that at all. And back in Destiny 1, I played it pretty much every single week. So while I do think these new playlists and features are cool, I definitely think the Sandbox update is very, very important. So Bungie definitely don't have an easy situation on their hands. There's a lot of work to be done. And also comment down below, what are your thoughts right now on Crucible in general and Trials? How do you think it could be better? And what kind of changes would you like to see for the Sandbox? So moving on, the next thing I wanted to mention was an update to the situation on lost sectors, which I mentioned in my previous video. I was saying how there's currently a lockout, so every 10 minutes you can only open 2 chests, and that of course was to counter that massive exploit of getting a ton of tokens really quickly. So someone called Sean on Twitter was saying how you shouldn't be punished for completing a lost sector that was designed too quickly. And then Christopher Barrett, who I've seen is very active on Twitter recently, he replied saying you shouldn't, and I agree. The time was meant to fix an exploit, but is way too penalizing right now. It's being adjusted in the next patch, but will likely need to be adjusted further. So apparently there's some kind of patch on the way, not sure when it's going to be arriving, but it is going to be reducing that massive chest lockout. There's also going to be more work for it going later. They said, we've heard player feedback that the solution to the exploit was too disruptive. We're looking at a change that won't make players feel forced to run to and from a single chest for hours, while also not placing a hard stop on enjoying lost sectors. We want to ensure that every time you open a chest, there is loot inside. We'll share some more details on this before the next faction rallies. So there you go, a big roundup of everything happening recently for Destiny 2 worth being aware of. As always, if you enjoyed the video and want to help support the channel, then like ratings down below are always much appreciated. Of course, make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on my future uploads. In the meantime, you can click the image on screen right now to watch a recent Destiny 2 video from me. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.